This idea of scientists talking about consciousness. If you listen to Ben Goertzel, he said that a lot of scientists, they don't believe in God.
I'm really interested in the nature of consciousness, and that there's a lot of very silly philosophy that's been written about it over the last 1,000 years. But I think that it's really, we've been very limited by the tools and our ability to interrogate and measure the brain. And as these tools get better, it will pull it into the realm of physics, and it's really one of the last big, great mysteries in science.
Now, God is a very difficult thing to understand. It could be like an energy or a thought form, but in essence, it seems to be something metaphysical. These scientists do not believe in things which are metaphysical. They believe in reality. Now, or they believe in physics. But if they believe in physics to be the truth and the objective truth, who's to say that the physics and the maths that we have aren't actually objective truths? The rules and the laws that they have are subjective to the dimensions that we live in. And that once you go out of the dimensions, there's different types of physics and different types of maths. So therefore, the maths and the physics that we have are only applied to the dimension that we live in. They're local to the dimension that we live in, but they're subjective. And that there's another type of objectivity to do with maths and physics or whatever else exists in the matrix worlds. Therefore, his calculations of consciousness are based on local, subjective rules and laws.
They're wondering, can this device be used to explain consciousness? In the long term, of course.
I can certainly shed some light on consciousness.
So this is a really interesting question. I think the answer is yes. And I think one of the reasons that consciousness is so hard is because, like anything in physics, you're looking at a mapping from X to Y, where X is the neuronal correlate, it's the thing that's happening then physically, and then Y is this phenomenal state. And historically, we've been unable to observe the neuronal correlates very well, and unless it's in you, we've been unable to observe the phenomenal state. So as soon as neuroscientists are able to personally get these tools where they can see the correlates and they can have the experience, I think the hard problem will vanish very quickly.
What I find remarkable is that the universe started out as like quarks and leptons, we'll call it like hydrogen, and hydrogen evolved, and somewhere along the way that hydrogen started talking and thought it was conscious.
I like the joke that it turns out that if you bombard Earth with photons for long enough, it'll emit a Tesla.
Yeah. Exactly.
Science and mysticism were split a long time ago during the Enlightenment period, 1700, 1800. And that was partly to do with the Catholic Church interfering with science. The scientists at that day, they were mystics. Newton was an occultist. Occultism is a part of mysticism. It's sort of the science of mysticism. But mysticism and religion go hand in hand. Whether you're a Christian, a Buddhist, a Muslim or whatever, mysticism always goes in hand with those spiritualities. And mysticism was supposed to be married to science. Science split with mysticism. And what essentially you have, because modern science is based on occultism. But science doesn't want to tell you that. Science always forgets that bit, because it's sort of embarrassing. Science was always led by mysticism. Mysticism was always acted perhaps as some sort of moral guide. Without having a moral guide, without having the mysticism, the science is going crazy. The science is like a teenager without a parent at a party. Yeah, without any understanding of how he reacts to alcohol. And as the new information comes in and the technology grows, that's the new alcohol, and the science can go a little bit crazy because it doesn't have a cosmology. And if you don't have a cosmology, then you can very easily become a nihilist. And a nihilist is perhaps the opposite of love. And if love is an energy, then nihilism is the opposite of this harmonious energy, which is something what the Gnostics were talking about, which were the pre-Christian philosophy around that time, which influenced Christianity, to do with Sophia. So you need to have something, otherwise the science that you're going to develop is going to come from a place of nihilism. And if you're coming from a place of nihilism, then the trajectory of what you're building is not going to be positive or harmonious. It's going to be very dangerous if it's not projected in the right direction. And so all of this idea about going to other planets, you haven't even sorted your own planet out. Yeah? And you haven't even sorted space out. You've left a mess, a garbage tip up in space, all right? And you've left the garbage tip down on Earth. Now you're going to Mars to make another garbage tip. Now you're going there to go and create humans, modify humans, transmute humans, for what? So this idea of consciousness and science is very important. It is linked. And you have to have some sort of cosmology, I believe, in order to make sure that the science is clean and not dirty.